need to build the discipline, the habits, dance with the fear of performing, understand that not every time you're going to succeed, but in the long term, if you make the right choices every day, you're going to accumulate, you're going to grow, try to grow every year. Every day you make small decisions that all combine up to really big growth. Not comparing yourself to others, but just to yourself. Am I better than yesterday? How can I be a better person? If you become a better person and grow as a person, the professional career is also going to take off.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of The Artist of Data Science. Be sure to follow the show on Instagram at The Artist of Data Science and on Twitter at Artists of Data. I'll be sharing awesome tips and wisdom on data science as well as clips from the show. Join the free open mastermind Slack channel by going to bit.ly.com/Artists of Data Science, where I'll keep you updated on bi-weekly open office hours that I'll be hosting for the community. I'm your host, Harpreet Sahota. Let's ride this beat out into another awesome episode. And don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the show. Our guest today is on a mission to teach people skills to analytical thinkers and bridge the data business gap with emotional intelligence. 10 years ago, he was a professional poker who spent every day optimizing his decisions based on data and human behavior. Though he doesn't play poker anymore, he's still passionate about psychology and numbers. He has a background in behavioral economics and uses that theoretical understanding of data and human behavior to understand how interpersonal relationships work in practice. And in the process, he's learned that the main data challenge for companies is not technology, it's the interaction between people. Through his training and coaching programs, which is grounded in a human-centric approach, he's helped hundreds of people learn how to ask better questions, communicate with business leaders, and present their results with impact. So please help me welcoming our guest today, a man who's on a mission to help 100,000 analytical thinkers improve their people skills, Gilbert Eijkelenboom. Gilbert, man, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to be here today. I really appreciate having you here on the show.
Thank you very much. I'm very excited, and thank you very much for the invitation. I'm looking forward to our conversation. I'm sure it's going to bring some interesting stuff.
Definitely, man, because I think the work that you're doing in this space is super important and something that is often overlooked by people who are not only in the data field, but breaking into the data field, because this is stuff that's not typically part of our normal curriculum that we learn in school, but it's so fundamental and foundational to our continued success. Before we get into all of that, though, I was wondering if you could talk to us a bit about your journey. What made you give up playing professional poker, and how'd you get involved in the data world?
Absolutely. Yeah. So what I've done during my student time, I started playing poker. A friend of mine, he showed me how to play it. I had no idea what the rules were, but slowly I got more into it. The reason I got into it is because I enjoy numbers and psychology so much. Because I was continually, like you said in the introduction, continually optimizing my decisions based on data, and also taking all the psychology into account, what decisions the other people were making. And I thought it was fascinating. And in the beginning, it was tough. I was just playing for the play money, not for real money, but step by step, I could climb a bit higher, and I had a great time. But like you said, at some point, I felt the world of poker was a bit too much just about poker. It's a really small world and people enjoy talking about poker. And although I liked the game, I felt there was a bit more. There's a bit more to it. So that's why I explored a bit of a broader perspective. I decided to study behavioral economics, which has this data component as well as the psychology component. Then I started my career 6 years ago as a consultant in analytics. And again, in analytics, I saw a lot of things coming together for me. First of all, the data, and second of all, the psychology. And what I enjoy most is combining those two. So using the technical methods to find insights in data and apply those insights combined with psychology.
So you've had a pretty good track record here over the last 6 years working in the data space. I was wondering, where do you see the field of analytics and data science headed in the next, say, 2 to 5 years?
Interesting question. What I see now in the market is that a lot of companies still treat data science as the magic bullet, I would say. They hire an expensive team of data scientists because most data scientists are very expensive. They put them on some desks and give them some desks and then expect that the magic will happen. It's a bit like, I read a metaphor once. It's not mine, but I'm happy to steal it. It's a bit like a gym membership, because if you purchase a really expensive gym membership with expensive gym clothes and the greatest running shoes you can find in the store, that doesn't mean you're getting fit, right? You need to go to the gym. You need to put in the effort. You need to make sure that you're going to sweat. And I see the same happening in data science. It doesn't mean if you put a team of data science in your company that it's going to work directly. You need to test experiments. There's a lot of difficulties on collaboration between data scientists and the business people, because they don't just have a different job role and different experience. Usually they also have a different personality and way of thinking. And that's exactly where the struggle is.
So what do you think is going to separate the great data scientist from the just merely good data scientists kind of going forward in the next 2 to 5 years?
I would say there's two important things. First of all, because data science is changing so quickly, the field with all the different technologies. It helps a lot if you're immensely curious and a fast learner. And to do that, you need to have an open mind. And second of all, that point relates to what I've said earlier. If you are a really good communicator, if you have the emotional intelligence to work with other people, understand what they need and how they're gonna use your models, that certainly helps in becoming a really good data scientist.
So speaking of making use of models, how do you see data science impacting the field of behavioral economics in the next 2 to 5 years?
Yeah, what I see with the combination of data science and behavioral economics, there's a lot of interesting applications in banking, because behavioral economics is about the psychology of decision making. So to understand how we make certain decisions, because if we understand how people make decisions, we can also influence those decisions in a positive way. If you think about yourself, saving money is often hard. It's way easier to just spend it, go to a bar and spend it on 10 beers. It's quite easy, but having the discipline to save money every year is tricky. And that's why there's a lot of behavioral economists that said, okay, we need to nudge their behavior, so influence in a positive way, such that people will save more. So one of the examples, there's an Australian bank. They had an app where you could round up all your purchases, which means that if you buy a sandwich of $3.65, then it's going to be round up to 4. All those small amounts, so 35 cents, amount up to quite a big amount in the end. And that helps you to save more and reach your saving goals. Where data science comes in is to understand each type of customer, because all people are different, of course, but still data science allows us to make segmentations and understand what type of customers there are. And by understanding what type of customers there are, you can also understand what is driving their behavior and how can we influence it in a positive way. So not just make a bigger profit, but also help them reach their own personal goals.
Talking about human behavior, I want to get into your book, People Skills for Analytical Thinkers. And I like your approach to mapping human behavior, kind of the decision-making process to algorithms. Can you talk to us about the first principle that you bring up in your book and how we can see our brain as a set of algorithms with an input, a process, and a output?
Yeah, absolutely. I was on a world trip last year for 6 months. What I wanted is to write a small piece of paper, let's say 20 20 pages, a PDF document to help some data scientists out with these people skills. But eventually it grew, and now it's a complete book. What I always found tricky is that all the psychology books, all the personal development books, they have just a kind of standard format, which I understood was not completely applicable to me as an analytical thinker, right? Like as an analyst, as a data scientist. So that's why, indeed, I use a lot of metaphors from data, like the one in the beginning of my book with the algorithm, where I say, okay, you can see your brain as a set of algorithms. How that works is, first of all, it takes the input from your environment. So you are somewhere in the supermarket or in a meeting, and you take in all the different inputs. Based on that, your brain is going to think what is the appropriate response. So based on the inputs, your algorithms in your head produce an output. A lot of those algorithms are you've learned over the last years. A lot of algorithms also you developed in the early years during your childhood. And that's exactly the reason why psychologists, if they have an interview with you before your job, they always dig into your childhood. And for some people, it's quite difficult to talk about that. It's very personal, of course, but there's a reason why they do it. It's because in those first years of your development, the groundwork is being done for later work. So all the algorithms, or many algorithms, are developed in that period. To give an example, to make it very concrete. So if you're a little guy, so Harpreet has a new voice since a few days. Congratulations. So in a few years, imagine he's walking in the kitchen. He's standing close to the oven, the stove, and then he touches it because kids are very curious, right? Of course, it's very painful if the oven is on. At that moment, there's going to be an algorithm formed. Okay, if I'm in the kitchen and I see the light is on, the oven is turned on, let's not touch it. So that's a really simple example how we learn the certain input. So I'm in the kitchen, I should not touch it. That's the algorithms that we teach ourselves. And of course, this is a basic example, but it works the same in meetings with a lot of senior guys. So maybe you think about, should I raise this question, yes or no? But I feel a bit nervous because maybe it feels awkward, or maybe I will look like I'm a bit stupid because I'm asking this question. Because of the algorithms we have developed in the past, in our childhood, it's going to be more difficult. Part of it is also because of evolution, and I can tell a bit more if you like.
Speaking of the evolution, right? You mentioned like there's two systems in the brain, limbic system and neocortex. Is that what you're about to reference? And if so, can you talk about what they are and what their influence is in our daily lives?
Absolutely. Yeah. How you can see your brain is that it consists of two different systems. One is the limbic system. You can see it as the emotional brain. And the other one is the thinking brain, the neocortex. So the emotional brain and the thinking brain. The best metaphor that I use is an elephant and a rider, because the elephant is the emotional brain. The rider is the thinking brain. So the rider is the rational guy on top. He knows where to go and he has the facts and the information. But the elephant is emotional, doesn't always listen to the rider. How does this apply to your life? For example, if you come home from a long day of data science work and you decide, okay, I want to get fit, so I want to go to the gym. And that's your thinking brain, because your thinking brain knows rationally what is the best way to live your life. But then your emotional brain says, I've had a long day. Maybe I want to relax a bit and it's okay. And let's take a candy. And before you know it, you're on the couch. And why? Because your emotional brain is so much stronger than your thinking brain. Because an elephant is 40 times heavier, right, than just a human. So the rider, of course, can try to steer in the right direction. But in the end, the emotional brain, the elephant, will go wherever he wants to go. And that's also an important point in the book, where I really considered myself very rational and analytical. And although there's a lot of good qualities on that really made it difficult for me to interact with others. I was quite shy. I was overthinking. I was thinking about others. So what will they think about me? Is this what I'm about to say, is this good enough, funny enough, smart enough? That made it very difficult for me to to speak up a bit more and to connect with other people. I found over the years that those are the qualities or skills that I needed to develop to connect with other people. That's exactly what I see in other data scientists as well, what I hear from them, their struggles. And that's why I'm so passionate to help them with these topics.
So you're talking about these feelings, these negative feelings like, oh, what are people going to think about me? Are they going to think I'm stupid? So these are the type of feelings that are coming from the limbic system, right? And so it's the neocortex part of the brain that we should train ourselves to think, okay, when I have this negative feeling, negative emotion, let me try to flip that into something more positive. Instead of thinking to myself, oh, these people are going to think I'm stupid, I could tell myself, actually, no, they're not going to think I'm stupid. They're going to think that I'm genuinely interested in this particular outcome and I want to see it succeed, right? It's just all about kind of the narrative that you tell yourself. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. And when you become aware of these things, these emotions, you can also steer them. But if you're not aware of them, you're going to be heavily influenced by them, even as a rational thinker. I always thought, okay, I'm a rational thinker. That's how I make my decisions. But I was very far from the truth. If you become more observant and more aware of these emotions, you can just sit with them and you can say, hey, I indeed feel a bit fearful to ask a question or to volunteer for an important presentation. But I'm just going to push through the fear and just do it anyway. And that's how the elephant and the rider can work in harmony.
So talk to us about rejection. What's the biological mechanism for it? And, a lot of people out there who are applying for jobs, they fear rejection in the job search. How can we leverage, now that we're armed with this knowledge, these two systems, right? The limbic system, the neocortex, how could we better cope with rejection in our job search? Yeah,
it's a really on-point question, especially in this time. It's so hard to feel rejection. It's very hard because when I feel rejected, I feel kind of wordless. I don't enjoy the moment. I am not in the state to do any productive work. I think many people experience the same way. And that is the emotional brain talking, the elephant, which is saying like, oh, this is stupid. I don't want to do it anymore. And just pushing away all those emotions. Well, you can also think, okay, I feel in my body that I don't enjoy this, but still I'm going to change the narrative, just like you mentioned just now. If I don't get invited for a job interview, or maybe after the last round, they say it's not going to work, we chose someone else. You can say, hey, they rejected me, or they chose for someone else. If you have a different mindset and think they probably had a good reason to do so, I'm not bad. The other person is just maybe a bit better for this particular position in this particular moment for this company. I think with such a narrative, you can keep your confidence and just apply for the next. And especially in this time, it's very hard to find a position. But I think with such a method, you keep the positivity and your self-confidence high.
So it's kind of not taking the rejection as a personal attack against you, your skill set, your self-worth, not letting that rejection affect your self-worth, and rather reframing the story to yourself that, okay, well, you know what, this organization had a certain set of requirements. They needed a certain skill set for this job. And my skill set for this job actually didn't align. And that's okay, because I've probably saved myself a lot of stress and heartache and hardships had I gone into a role where maybe I wasn't aligned well for it. It comes back to, I guess, this kind of the narrative that you tell yourself, right?
Yeah, beautiful. And how you frame it's even more positive. It's not neutral like I framed it, but it's like one layer on top. You frame it in a positive way. I probably wouldn't be happy in such a role. And now now I have the opportunity to find a role that completely fits me.
What's up, artists? Be sure to join the free open mastermind Slack community by going to bit.ly.com/artists of data science. It's a great environment for us to talk all things data science, to learn together, to grow together. And I'll also keep you updated on the open bi-weekly office hours that I'll be hosting for our community. Check out the show on Instagram at the Artists of Data Science. Follow us on Twitter at Artists of Data. Look forward to seeing you all there. There's another section I like in your book. It's around the importance of saying no. So can you talk to us a bit about the importance of saying no, especially now that we're in this post-COVID work environment where we're all kind of working from home. And it seems like, we have to be online all the time.
Yeah, it's very hard. Of course, it brings a lot of opportunities. I mean, the reason we connected is internet, and over LinkedIn, it brings a lot of opportunities, but also challenges, because we're online all the time, and people also expect you to be online. And in certain companies, they expect when they call in the evening, you pick up. So the boundaries become very blurry. And what you need to be mindful of is, hey, what do I think about such a situation, and how does my day look like when I'm most productive? I think what the trap is, what most people fall into, is that they think they don't have an option. And of course, their manager, and there's hierarchy, and their manager may demand something. But still, if you let your manager know what your preferences are, if you do the best work in the morning individually, then have a conversation with your manager and say, hey, can I block the first 2 hours to do programming and go into depth with my data science models? If you tie it to his goals, saying, then I'm more productive, I'm going to deliver more for the team, that's his goal. That's what's helping him. If you're just in a reactive state, seeing all the emails coming in and the requests of phone calls also in the evening, then you're going to have a hard time, right? If you show that you're willing to deliver a lot of value, and at the same time you can be strict on your boundaries, what is acceptable for you or not, when are you available, yes or no, that's very important. And that's also where feelings come into play. While I always thought, okay, I'm rational, I'm analytical, I'm trying to make the decisions based on data and facts, but many decisions you cannot make based on facts. Because if someone's going to call me, hey, do you want to help me with this? I need to determine if it's in my agenda, if it's in line with my ambition, how I feel mentally. Do I still have some energy? There's more than rationality and facts to this equation.
Thank you, man. Thank you for that. So now that we've kind of set the foundation in terms of the mechanics of how we think, can we get more in depth on emotional intelligence? So can we start by having you define emotional intelligence for our listeners?
Yeah, emotional intelligence is often defined as the ability to manage and understand your own emotions and also those of others.
What would you say is the importance of emotional intelligence in our personal and professional lives?
Yeah, like you said, it goes way beyond professional life. To become a really good data scientist, you need to, first of all, understand the business problem. So you need to ask good questions and understand how they're going to use your data. What are the most important topics for them? And without emotional intelligence, it's going to be very difficult. Also, during the process, it requires good communication, because if you're going to sit in a dark corner and not communicate to anyone, see what they think about your intermediate product, your prototype, you're not going to get that buy-in. You want to make them part of the solution, ask for input, not just rational, but also emotional. What do you think about this? Then they become a fan of your product. Then if you're going to present the solution, the key to presentations is that you understand what the audience is in front of you, because your message is going to be totally different if you talk to a fellow data scientist, managing level, or to the CEO. All those people have different goals. By understanding that and having the emotional intelligence to understand their emotions behind the behavior, that helps a lot. Then to life, I think emotional intelligence is the basis of relationships, not just with a partner, because it's incredibly helpful in dating life, of course. Other people will not like it if you act like a robot. People can relate very well to other humans that also sense emotions and are not afraid to express emotions as well. That's also something I see in the workplace, where people think, okay, I'm in a corporate life, I work for a big company, so I need to act professional. But professional is not equal to hiding and having a mask and not showing anything. It doesn't mean you cannot talk about personal stuff. It doesn't mean you cannot say that you're not happy or you don't feel well about a certain topic. Actually, it's the opposite. When I opened up a bit more about these topics, where I first thought, this is fluffy psychology talk, and emotions are only harmful for the decision making. Once I opened up, I became more confident. I felt much deeper connections with people, both on a professional level and also with my friends, family, and girlfriends. So I think there's incredible opportunity.
When I first got exposed to these concepts and first started to, not look at this psychology and emotional intelligence type of stuff as, being woo-woo, my life changed dramatically and my career has blossomed so much. And it's interesting because it's something that is so foundational to being a human, but it doesn't get taught to us in school. Is that because emotional intelligence, it can be learned, but it can't necessarily be taught?
I think it can be taught. Like all these topics, you cannot just learn it by reading 10 pages of emotional intelligence. That's also why my book is really practical and exercise oriented, because emotional intelligence is also about exercise. You cannot improve your people skills without going out in the world and try things out, because that's how you learn. The same for Python or R code. Of course, you can read an extensive manual and help page, but if you don't try it yourself and fail and learn and experiment, then you're never going to be good at coding. So, and the same holds for emotional intelligence. You need to learn. You need to try things out. Some things that really helped me was journaling. So writing down about your day, how was your day? And in the beginning, I felt, okay, maybe this is for kids, kind of evaluating your day, having a log on it, what all the girls had in primary school. But I think it's quite funny that for me, I swear by it now. And I don't do it every day, but a few times a week. And how it helps me is that I write down the most important things of the day, and also important decisions. And I write down how I think about it and how I feel about it. And it's incredible to reflect, because it really helps me to evaluate situations and learn from it. And it's also funny to read it after 5 years. To read what I've written, it's really intriguing, because it shows how much you've grown, and that makes it really interesting.
Yeah, it's a good actionable tip. Like I've got my journal right here as I pull it out.
Beautiful.
People can't see it on the podcast, but yeah, I've got my journal right here.
Nice. You do journaling?
Yeah. I've just started the practice recently, and I found it to be helpful. I unfortunately haven't been able to journal in a week or so. I've got a lot to get out now, but yeah, it's been very, very helpful. So that's a really good actionable bit of advice that we could do to start understanding ourselves and our emotions a little bit better, is to start journaling. What say, when we're on the job per se, like journaling is a very good process when we're sitting at a desk by ourselves. But when we're actually at work interacting with our colleagues, do you have any tips on what we could do to start developing better emotional intelligence?
Absolutely. Because emotional intelligence is so much related to interactions between people. Because of course, emotional intelligence is partly what do I feel when I'm alone, but what it's really impactful to grow in the interactions with people. That's why I would say getting feedback is critical. A very helpful method to get that feedback from other people. It's always a bit scary, of course, but it's so important how people view you. Of course, you see the world through your own pair of eyes, and other people may have something interesting to tell you. And the method I was referring to is the keep, start, stop method. So the first is keep. What should I keep doing? So what are my strengths? What are the positive algorithms that I've built over the course of my life? And what should I start doing? What am I not doing yet, but is valued if I would do it? And what should I stop doing? So that would be the negative behavior, or that could be calling while you're in a meeting, but also more subtle things like apologizing when it's not necessary. So those three steps. So keep, start, stop doing is very, very useful.
What if we're like the type of person who's really quiet and maybe we're uncomfortable asking for feedback? How do we get comfortable doing that? And then once we get feedback, what can we do to not take it as like a personal attack?
Yeah, that's indeed difficult, because we're wired. And again, that's our emotional elephant. When we get the feedback, our emotional elephant is pushing it away, trying to say, it doesn't matter. Maybe the guy is not right. Well, it does not apply to me, or not in this situation. What could be helpful, and what I've heard from other people, especially analytical people that ask for feedback for the first few times, is to ask feedback on a really specific project. or a really specific presentation or meeting. And in that way, it becomes a bit more narrow and also a bit easier to ask. It also narrows down the feedback so that you will not overwhelm other people by asking that feedback. So that helps.
And it's not enough to just ask for the feedback. We also need to action on it and then circle back and make sure that we've made improvements on that feedback as well, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. That's right. And by journaling, of course, that can help by setting goals for the years. Last week, actually, I found a note from many years ago. It was during a holiday in France where I was with some friends. And one of those friends gave me the feedback, yeah, you're really good one-on-one, but in groups, you're so quiet and you could speak up a bit more. And it was this deep conversation with a lot of beers. But I wrote it down and I found the note after many years. And I went back to this guy who gave me the feedback, this friend, and he laughed, first of all, that I saved this type of things, these notes, and continually think about developing myself. But he said, and I asked him, how is it now? Do you see any difference? And he did say, yeah, it's completely different now. You express yourself much more. You're not as robotic and much more connecting and more courageous in social situations. So it was beautiful to see that piece of progress for myself. And I think if you take those steps continually, that's gonna be tremendously helpful.
Yeah, I suffer from the same thing too. I think I'm pretty good one-on-one, but group settings, I'm a bit quiet. And I think that a lot of that comes back to, we're talking about the limbic system. There's that little piece in the limbic system, little almond-shaped thing called the amygdala, right? Which is that fear response. It's rooted in our ancient kind of biology where it's like, oh, we don't want to say or seem weird. We don't want the group to ostracize us. It's better just to stay safe in a corner and blend in than stand out and say something that might get us laughed at. And you just have to just overcome that, right? And just push through it. Realize that it's not the end of the world if you say something and people laugh at you.
Exactly. And usually we talk a lot in our heads, and especially analytical people, they overthink a lot. What's going to happen if? Because we plan so far ahead and we think about too many things, to be honest. But that's also, it's a big power, but it can be a weakness as well, something we struggle with. Yeah, it's again this emotional elephant that says, okay, no, don't do it. It's going to be scary. As the writer, the thinking brain knows that it's best to speak up or to volunteer for the presentation and to do the scary stuff, because of course everyone knows rationally that's what brings growth, right? Everyone knows that. That's nothing new, but it's all about having the courage and the awareness of yourself. Okay, this is just emotions, because in prehistoric times we were living in a tribe where it was very, very important to be accepted by the group. That's why people didn't take big risks. If you said something that was totally out of line with the tribe lead, you may be kicked out of your tribe. And the consequence of that is that you would have no security, no shelter, no food. So literally, it was deadly. So rejection, standing out from a group, was deadly. And that's why we developed our brain throughout all those years, such that we are incredibly fearful for rejection and taking risks. And your rational brain, your thinking brain, of course, knows that you're not going to die if you do a presentation and you mess up. Nothing is going to happen. The worst that can happen is that you learn, right? There's this quote from Nelson Mandela, incredible. If you realize that there's so much opportunity for growth. And once I personally saw that, it led to a lot of happiness in my life. So
yeah, if you can get through doing things that you hate to do, on the other side is greatness. You just have to do it, right? Are you familiar with any of the work by Seth Godin wrote a book called Lynchpin, Scott Pressfield, or The War of Art, Do the Work. They talk about this concept called the resistance, and which is exactly just that amygdalic response to not wanting to stand out, to not wanting to pursue something because you want to feel safe and secure. If you haven't checked those books out, I think you'll really enjoy those.
Yeah, it's beautiful books. Stephen Pressfield, I love a lot the War of Art, because I felt this resistance as well. I read the book while writing my own book. At times, it's kind of a roller coaster writing a book, because in the beginning, I was just about to write 20 pages, a PDF document for data scientists, but it was bigger and bigger. And I was very enthusiastic. I'm incredibly passionate about helping other analytical thinkers with these, developing these people skills. But then I also felt some doubt, if I publish a book, what will people think? Is it good enough? Who am I to teach all these people skills? And of course, I think I have a story to tell, and I've built quite some knowledge on this subject, but still there's the doubt. And I think that makes it also beautiful, especially if you work for yourself, because you need to get your own income. You're going to be judged anyway. There's so much judgment also on the internet. If no one is judging you, then you're not pushing yourself outwards enough.
Yeah, I definitely felt that resistance a lot. And I still do with this podcast specifically. Like, I consider this to be my art form. And I definitely feel that resistance a lot, especially when it comes to trying to edit things, make it perfect. And I noticed myself not shipping things. The podcast could have came out like a month earlier, but it was the resistance that led me to delay and prevent shipping it until, I eventually did. But yeah, that's awesome, man. I'm glad that we are speaking the same language there. Are you an aspiring data scientist struggling to break into the field? Well, then check out dsdj.co/artists to reserve your spot for a free informational webinar on how you can break into the field. That's going to be filled with amazing tips that are specifically designed to help you land your first job. Check it out. dsdj.co/artists. How does emotional intelligence now, how does it change, or does it stay the same now that we're in this post-COVID world where our face-to-face interactions are now, virtual?
Yeah, I think it makes emotional intelligence even more important, because there's a barrier. Of course, we can see each other with webcams if we're lucky. I'm still in many meetings where webcams are not used. Even if webcams are on, it creates a barrier. It's different. Physically, there's a different response as well if you're in the same room, because all the chemicals are harmonizing, and there's mirror neurons firing if you're in the same room, and that gives a bonding feeling, which you don't have if you are behind the camera. And that makes it difficult. Why it makes emotional intelligence more important is because of this distance. You need to check more often how it is going with people. If you do a project with others, have some quick check-ins how people are doing. And of course, this time also brings a lot of anxiety. Am I gonna keep my job? Am I applying for the right jobs? Am I crushed because I'm rejected? There's a lot of anxiety in this time. And if you are aware of your own emotions and not being blown away by your own emotions, that helps a lot, because then you can consistently make the right decisions and not be pulled away by your emotional elephant and having a crushed ego.
So you talk about this concept of a bright spot in your book. Would you mind just giving a overview of what that concept means, and maybe how we can go about identifying and cultivating our own bright spot?
Yeah, sure. So most people are aware of blind spots, which are weaknesses that we are not aware of, and feedback can help to uncover those. But the contrary also exists. So bright spots are strengths that we are not aware of. And the reason we are often not aware of it is because it feels so normal, because it feels very normal to do something. To give an example, I once was in a meeting and we were totally lost in a discussion. No one had an idea where we were going, and no one had even an idea what problem we are solving. That's why I went to a whiteboard and I wrote down what the core of the problem was. And I didn't have the solution, but I just wrote down the core of the problem, a few points about the main questions that came up during the meeting. And it was nothing new for me. It was nothing I added to the board. It was not brilliant. That's what I thought. But after the meeting, several people came to me and they said, wow, it's incredible what you did there, because you summarized and put it on the whiteboard where everyone could see it. The whole meeting was so much more focused, and in the end, we got to a solution. And for me, I felt quite amazed by that feedback, because I thought but I didn't do anything, right? It was very natural. I just wrote it down on the board. And for many people, those strengths, whether it's the ability to listen or ability to dive into a model and find one piece of code that is not correct, we are often not aware of those. So by getting feedback, you cannot just uncover your blind spots, but also your bright spots.
That's an excellent point, right? Because I think when people ask for feedback, they always think they're going to hear back something negative, but oftentimes you'll hear back something that people are saying that you're good at. You didn't even know you were good at it because it's just natural to you, right? That's awesome, man. So that leads me to the next question here. It's about self-awareness. How could data scientists cultivate better self-awareness? Do you have any actionable tips for our listeners that they can implement today to start becoming more self-aware?
Yeah, I think a few I pointed out already, which is one, journaling, and two, getting feedback. A third one is one that not everyone is comfortable with, and I wasn't either, because it's meditation. And since 5 years, I've meditated, and I do so with an application on my phone. So it helps because it helps me if someone guides me through it. Because it's very hard to sit still and to think about nothing, because it felt so unproductive for me. I thought, okay, I'm just sitting here and what am I doing? Maybe this is the woo-woo stuff. Nothing is going to happen. I was very judgmental, and I think my emotional elephant tried to pull me out of the habit there. But slowly I built a habit. And if I need to mention one thing that had really helped me in the last years, it's meditation, because it calms down my mind, because I'm thinking so much. Also before this podcast, I meditated for 10 minutes just to get into the zone and to relax and not think about the 100 other things I want to do in the coming days. Because then I want to be present with you and having a good conversation, and I want to be here. That's also the basis for having a good connection. And why it's important for data scientists is because if we stay in our own head and if we have all these thoughts, but we're not in the present, in the meeting with the guy you're meeting, or in a bigger meeting, whether you're doing a presentation or whether you want to focus on making the best data science model you've built so far, you need to focus. And focus is one of the most difficult things there is at the moment, because we are pulled in all different directions with social media and news. Everything is available. Meditation helped me to, one, become more self-aware, and two, to focus my attention.
Yeah, I definitely noticed a dramatic shift in the quality of my focus once I started to incorporate a meditative process as part of my daily life. And, it doesn't even take that much. 10 minutes a day is all you really need, right? And so the way I incorporate it into my day is like I'll do my cardio routine, getting into that sympathetic nervous system, heart rate up, fight or flight mode, and then immediately after, jumping right into a meditative state to get into that parasympathetic nervous system, that rest and digest mode, and just calm, relaxed, and then ready to go about my day with some clear focus, clear thinking. Yeah, I think it's something that people should definitely start incorporating. So how can we create a better awareness of our algorithms in our head? Is it through meditation, or is there something else that we could start doing?
Yeah, meditation can certainly help. Why meditation helps is not because all of a sudden during your meditation, you think, okay, hey, this is an algorithm that I've built. This is a pattern. So if someone is calling loudly in the hallway, I'm getting very annoyed. No, that's not the insight that you're getting thanks to meditation straight away. It's more indirect, because if you meditate, you silence your mind. Because of that, you get much more aware of everything that's happening in your body. When someone talks over you in a meeting, when someone interrupts you and you are aware of that, you can really feel in your stomach like, I don't like this. If it happens a few times, it can really, really bother you. Then maybe you totally shut down and you don't say anything anymore. By becoming more aware, you notice that, hey, I'm shutting down. But what is the alternative? Maybe I can be aware of, hey, I'm shutting down, but then think, this doesn't feel right. Maybe I'm going to talk to the guy who interrupted me 3 times and tell him about what happened and how I feel about it. And becoming more aware of your own body and what's happening and your preferences, that also helps it to express it to other people so that other people can take into account your preferences. When I was in high school, I just assumed other people would take into account my preferences, but I never expressed them. I just hoped they would take them into account. And if they were not, I felt a bit angry or resentful. But now I'm I've built more awareness, I'm able to express that to people. And that's how I give them the opportunity to take my algorithms into account. So if I find it really bothering when people interrupt me, then I can tell people, and maybe the next time they will take it into account. But if I never express my own algorithms and my preferences, I don't give them the opportunity to take them into account.
So now that we've kind of got some tips on how we can develop some better awareness of our algorithms, what if we notice that we have some quote unquote maybe bad or negative algorithms? You mentioned a 3-step process in your book for changing our algorithms. Do you mind just quickly kind of going over that at a high level for us?
Yeah, the 3-step process that I mentioned in the book is, first of all, pause. So when you feel the behavior is happening, then take a pause. So if you're really bad at saying no to people, then every time someone comes with a request, don't say yes immediately, but try to catch yourself in the moment. And that's where this awareness helps. And then just take a pause 3 seconds. And then the second step after pausing is experiment with new behavior. Maybe say, I need to check my agenda before I commit to any new tasks. If you feel very confident, you say, no, that's not going to work for me. But there's various types of behaviors that you can choose. And then the third step is that you're going to repeat and monitor the progress. You're going to try and experiment with those behaviors after catching yourself with the behavior that you want to get rid of. And then you keep experimenting and see what happens in practice. Then journaling helps to track that progress. For example, before you go to sleep, you look at a few situations. Hey, a few guys ask for my help. And that's always a good sign, of course, when people ask for your help, because your work is valued. If you're not assertive enough, you have an 80-hour work week, and you're going to work on stuff maybe you're not interested in. By pausing and taking that moment for reflecting, then implementing the new type of behavior, and then continuously doing that while monitoring the results, then you can, in the end, implement a new behavior. And the beauty of that is that after a while, it's not so difficult anymore to say no to someone if that's what you mean, or to stand up and raise your hand, ask a question that feels stupid, or volunteer for a presentation, or do some coding that you've never done before. Because you're building the habit, and you're building new patterns, new algorithms in your head, which make it more automatic and which make it easier for you to choose that desirable behavior instead of the behavior you want to get rid of.
Reminds me about kind of the habit loop, habit formation. You've got the cue, routine, reward, that kind of habit loop cycle. Let's shift gears a little bit here. I read a blog post of yours. It must have been from a while back, but it was about intrapreneurship. Now, this is something that I'm fascinated about. I absolutely love this concept of intrapreneurship. Can you talk to me about what it means to be an intrapreneur and how a data scientist can cultivate the qualities of an intrapreneur within themselves and be one for their organization?
Yeah, how I see entrepreneurship is that you're kind of running yourself as a company within a company, because we're aware of entrepreneurship, which is running your own company, but this is in the company you're working for. And how I see that is that you have various types, because you have the expectations of other people, which is your job description, all the requests that come in, meeting requests. Then you have your own skills, so a circle with your own skills. And then below that, you have what is helping the organization, what brings value. And for the people that know Ikigai, it's similar. It's a similar approach. I won't go into the details, but what is incredibly useful is when you become aware of your own strengths, and whether you're a data scientist or in a different role, you always have a few superpowers that other people don't have to the same extent. So if you become really aware of what is my strength and how can I use those skills to add value in the company, then that is where you become very powerful. What makes it tricky is that people always have certain thoughts about what you should be doing. And that's where you need to be very assertive, and because entrepreneurship is about taking new initiatives to match your skills with what is desirable for the organization. And it doesn't always match the needs of other people. But that's why you need to be assertive and go for those opportunities that really contribute. So for example, in the company I worked for, a consulting company, I found virtual reality very fascinating for some time. It was a few years ago. I knew it was a big trend, and I decided to organize a big event at Capgemini, the company I was working for. And it was really fun because I could do totally my own thing. It was not there yet. So you're creating something from scratch, and it also delivers value to the company. And it was challenging because people said, hey, you have other deliverables, you need to work on a project, and I need to make time for it. But for me, those new initiatives are incredibly rewarding for myself, and also contributed a lot to the companies I worked for.
Last question before we jump into our lightning round. What's the one thing you want people to learn from your story?
The most important thing I would say is that emotions are not scary. So Seth Godin said, yes, emotions are there. You shouldn't be overwhelmed by them, but you should just dance with the fear. That is really in line with the message in my book. In the past, I was pushing away emotions. I thought, I'm not emotional, I'm a rational guy. I'm an analytical thinker. By understanding those emotions and not being afraid to look at it, I could push through the fear and do much more fun things in my professional life as well as personal life, like bungee jumping and stuff like that. I'm intrigued by that because while you're on the edge of a bridge while bungee jumping, your whole body screams, this is not a good idea. This is not a good idea. And that's the emotional elephant speaking, because the emotional elephant is mainly concerned with being relaxed and being comfortable. And then you need to push yourself with your rational brain, like this is really something I want to do. So I'm going to push through and just jump. And that's why I'm fascinated with that. So to come back to your question, I think it's incredibly important also for rational people, analytical thinkers, to understand that emotions are relevant. And even if you don't believe it for yourself, you're in a world with people full of emotions. I'm not sure if you've tried to change someone's mind just with facts and rational thought. It's very difficult.
So let's go ahead and jump into our lightning round. 100,000 people. Tell us real quick why you chose that number, and then also what's the impact that you want to have on these 100,000 people.
Yeah, when I was on my sabbatical, on my world trip around the world, I was writing a lot, and I saw my articles reached 600,000 views, and I thought, okay, this internet is really incredible, and I want to enlarge my impact. That's why I said, okay, I'm gonna help all those people, and I've built experience with training and coaching, and I've worked with a lot of data scientists, and now I'm gonna take the next step, and that's why I decided that I wanted to impact 100,000 people. I think given the amount of readers that I've accumulated, this is a good goal. I'm not sure when I'm going to reach it, but I get incredible satisfaction from reading personal emails from people that say, what is the impact for them as an analytical thinker? Reading my book, that gives me so much satisfaction. And yeah, I'm really happy to read that.
We discussed emotional intelligence in great detail today. So barring that, what would you say is a topic outside of data scientists that you think every data scientist should spend some time researching?
I would say psychology, but it's really related to emotional intelligence. So I'll skip that. What I think everyone can learn a lot from is high performance sports. In high performance sports, you need to build the discipline, the habits. You need to dance with the fear of performing. You need to understand that not every time you're going to succeed, but in the long term, if you make the right choices every day, you're going to accumulate, you're going to grow up to a point of really high performance. I wouldn't say that everyone needs to have the ambition to be the number one in the world. I don't think that's necessary. I think what is more important is that you try to grow every year, and every day you make small decisions that all combine up to really big growth. Not comparing yourself to others, but just to yourself. Am I better than yesterday? And how can I be a better person? Because I've really experienced if you become a better person and grow as a person, the professional career is also going to take off.
I like that. High performance athletes, like you can learn a lot in terms of just mindset and drive. and motivation from them. Have you read the book Relentless by Tim Grover?
No, I haven't.
So Tim Grover, he was the kind of the personal coach for Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, Dwayne Wade, and a number of other professional basketball players. And he wrote a book called Relentless. And in that book, Relentless, he talks about three personas. There's the cooler, the closer, and the cleaner. If you're into high performance sports and, mindsets of high performance athletes, you're really, really going to enjoy that book. So definitely check that out.
Cool. Thank you for the recommendation. I'm going to check that out.
So what's your favorite hand in poker?
I would say it's Jack 10 suited of hearts.
All right. Nice. So what's the number one book you would recommend our audience read and your most impactful takeaway from it? Actually,
it's in line with what I've just said about sports, because the book I would recommend is The Compound Effect. I believe it's by Darren Hardy, The Compound Effect. So the key message is that all the small decisions that you take no matter how big or small, whether it's to eat a Snickers or a kiwi, whether it's to speak up in a meeting or stay silent, whether to approach a girl in a nightclub or not, everything compounds up to your life. So every time you make a decision, it's going to be a decision in the direction you want to go in with your life or not. And if you continually make the right decisions, building the healthy habits, growing as a person, the rest is going to come. And it's incredible how much difference it is between those two. And I know it's the lightning round, but let me quickly elaborate on this, because there's a powerful example. If you take a plane from Amsterdam, the Netherlands, to Kenya, and the angle that a plane takes off with is just 1 degree to the right or to the left, that makes an incredible difference. So you're not going to end up in Kenya, but instead you're going to end up in Somalia. That metaphor was really powerful for me, because it shows that no matter how small the decisions, if you are only 1 degree off course, in the end of your life, you're going to reach completely different destination.
Yeah, that book is really, really good. He's got a lot of amazing illustrative examples. The one that really struck me was the double a penny for a day every day for a month. And by the end of the month, you'll be a multimillionaire. That was insane. But yeah, Compound Effect is an amazing book. So let's talk, what's your morning routine like?
Yeah, especially in this Corona time, I try to go outside. There's no complete lockdown in the Netherlands. So what I do, I get up, I have my alarm outside of my bed, so not to snooze. That's what I used to do for a long time. But I get up, I drink a glass of water, eat a banana, eat some nuts, and then I go out to do some sports. There's some pull-up bars close to my house. I'm doing some exercise. I just look at the water and the green fields around me to really start the day slow, but at the same time with high intensity sports. Then I go back, I eat a healthy breakfast, have a shower, the last few minutes a cold shower, same as bungee jumping. You need to push through and tell your mind, hey, I'm the boss here, and the emotional elephant can go anyway, but I'm deciding what's going to happen. Then I do some meditation, not long, just 10 minutes, like you said, and I enjoy a few minutes in the sun on the bed with my girlfriend.
Man, that's the one thing I haven't been able to incorporate into my routine yet, is that cold shower. Like, all the books I read talk about the benefits of that, and I'm like, yes, I want all those benefits, but it's that fear, man. It's the last bit of resistance that I'm facing. I think I've got to start breaking into it, man. If we could somehow get a magic telephone that allowed us to contact 20-year-old Gilbert, what would you say to him? First of all, tell us what you were doing at 20 years old, and what would you say to him at that point?
I was playing poker actually when I was 20. And what would I say? At the time, I was really, really dependent on opinions of other people. So I would say, don't think so much about what other people think. Don't care so much, because I was so heavily influenced. I was continually adjusting my behavior depending on the people around me. And I think that's totally unhealthy. It's not authentic. It's not fun. I was not spontaneous. It was all too calculated, way too robotic. So I would say to him, don't think so much about what other people think.
What's the best advice you've ever received?
Write down the number one priority of the day. It's incredibly simple, but so powerful.
What song do you currently have on repeat?
I keep enjoying Eminem, Till I Collapse.
I love that song. Good one, man. Good one. So where can people find part 1 of your book that you've so generously given out for free?
Yeah, they can find it on Mindspeaking. So mindspeaking.com/book. I'm giving away part 1 for free. You can sign up there.
Awesome, man. I'd recommend everybody listening to check that out. We'll definitely include the link to that in the show notes. So how can people connect with you? Where can they find you?
Best way is on LinkedIn. So you can find me, Gilbert, and a very difficult last name. Preet will put it in the comments, I guess. And always willing to have a chat. Let me know how I can help. And I'm curious to hear from you.
All right. Well, Gilbert, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to be here on the show and talk about your work with me. I really, really appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you too. I really enjoyed the conversation, and you have a lot of knowledge on these topics as well. So I'm sure we're going to talk another time.
Definitely, man. Look forward to having you back for round 2 at some point.
Cheers. Appreciate it.